Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back. Happy Tuesday at the time of recording. Hope you're well. Hope you've had a terrific day so far. If you're watching this afterwards, just know I am speaking from the future. Tuesday is terrific, albeit a little bit wet, but I can't promise that'll be I can't promise it'll be wet where you are, but it's definitely very wet here today. We are continuing this episode. We are continuing where we started yesterday with exploring how we can structure our year, how we can structure our life and our year specifically like a story. With the housekeeping reminder, of course, that you're enjoying this on YouTube and in the playground, you get all the behind the scenes bits and bobs, and you get to enjoy all of the chit chat. So if you'd like to come and do that with us live, we'll be back tomorrow at 2 p.m. UK time, 3 p.m. South Africa, 9 a.m. Eastern. With that said, I'm going to give an extra wave to Acelia in our live studio audience. And if you're watching this and you want to be in the live studio audience and you join us, make sure you add a comment so that I can know that you're there, because I can see how many people are watching. And I know Acelia is watching because she told me she's going to be. So anyway, we're going to get cracking with today's episode, and because I'm really intrigued by some of the things which Holy Spirit laid out yesterday and what this might look like. So let's get cracking. Welcome to today's episode of the Heaven and Elle podcast. I am your host, Elle Edwards, founder of the Itchy Soul Playground and Youier. If you haven't already seen or heard yesterday's episode, where I laid out the broad strokes of what it might look like to structure your life like a story, I would encourage you to go back and watch that. Only because today we are thinking about Act 3. And that will make more sense if you've seen or enjoyed the overview that we did yesterday. And also the introduction of how we got here. Because I'm going to be quite transparent. Some of the things that I've been unpacking with Holy Spirit, they're quite different to how I've traditionally done goal setting in the past. As I shared with you yesterday, I've gone through various planning systems and ways of setting goals with much frustration over the years, such that I threw the whole lot away, but then did come back to it because there is power. Like it says in Proverbs, I believe it is, or it might be Psalms, I'll have to check, but I've got it on my whiteboard, and I know it's in the Bible, but I don't have the reference. God's people perish because of lack of vision. We are reminded that there is power in exploring things with God and what it looks like. So this is why we're bothering about this. The reticular activating system, the way that your mind is wired, it will help you filter in those things that will help you move towards those things that are important to you. So that's part of the power of it. However, it's Act 3, and you may not have known before yesterday that you were in Act 3. I didn't know before yesterday that I was in Act 3, with the caveat, this is based on a year that plans from January through to December. I know that I have friends, like one of the ladies in the playground, her year runs from April to April. So what we're exploring, it can be transferred onto any system, or not a system, any dating, any calendar. We've just recently, in the beginning of the month, I say we, wasn't me specifically, the Jewish New Year started, and us as Christians, we can pay attention to that as well, because it's all God, and so you might, for example, like your year to run in conjunction with the Jewish year. So just know that whilst we're exploring this from the context that the year runs from January to December, you don't have to be tied by that. In fact, that's something that we're going to touch upon tomorrow, is like, what do you do if you miss the start line? Does that mean you're doomed for a whole year? No. But I'm getting ahead of myself. That's tomorrow. For today, then, we're thinking, okay, we are stepping into Act 3. It's October the 1st in just a few days' time, that final quarter of the year. And in storytelling terms, the final act, Act 3, is where you take the fight to the enemy, where all of the story questions are wrapped up. There's an important point in storytelling, is that by the time Act 3 starts, there should be no new information, there should be no new characters. As I shared with you yesterday, one of the most frustrating things when you watch something or read something where they have this solution that's pulled out of thin air, you're like, where did that come from? That's ridiculous. That's because the writer has not followed the rules of story. I know there's not like a big book that lays the rules out, but it's like these story principles. So if we're going to think about our year as a story, and we're going to think, well, we're stepping into the final act, what does that mean in terms of where you are right now? Particularly if you didn't know that this whole year could be structured like a story. like I say, I didn't know. Holy Spirit only talked to me about it literally yesterday. And so I have a couple of questions that I was exploring with Holy Spirit, and I want to offer to you by way of something that you can play with. Before we do that though, you need that reminder that all of this, like we said yesterday, you get to do it with God. You don't have to try and sort of like figure out the answers by yourself. 99% of the people who enjoy the podcast are people of faith. You know Jesus, and so you have Holy Spirit living with you. You can therefore have conversations with God. It's the IER in Youier, intentional expectant relationship. So before you do anything else, right, you can't explore these questions with Holy Spirit unless you expect to be able to do so. So if you need help with that, right, you can pause this video, go and download the little Youier book. It's teeny tiny, it's free on Amazon and it's free on Apple Books. And I will walk you through what that looks like, how easy it can be to hear God's heart, how easy and fun and freeing it can be to ask God questions, expecting to hear answers. All right, so that's that. We're going to take it as read for the rest of this episode that you know how to have conversations with God. And perhaps you've already tried journaling with God, doing it in your notebook, or maybe you go outside and have conversations with him in nature, whatever it looks like for you to talk to God and hear his heart. So if you don't do that, or you feel a bit like, I need a bit of a refresher, get the book. The link is in the show notes, but it's youier.com/get-the-book. And on that page, there's links to where you can get it for free on Amazon and Apple Books. With that reminder over then, we've set that's our standard. We're going to make that assumption that all of the things I'm going to say to you now, you feel, okay, you can do this, you can give it a go. Remember, you don't have to worry about getting the wrong answer, okay? This is about having fun. It's freeing. It's meant to be something that can inspire you and give you hope. And so I didn't know, like I said, I didn't know until yesterday when Holy Spirit shared with me. I hadn't considered that this year could be structured like a story. So if we don't know that we're in a story, how can we possibly end the story well? That's what we're considering today. How do we end Act 3, this final quarter, well? And what I want to encourage you to do is I want you to go to Holy Spirit and explore with him what question or questions or themes or things, you can insert whatever adjective or non-adjective noun you want to have in there. But what was your book really about? Or what was this year really about? And yes, actually, doing this right now, after we've had the first 9 months gone through, it's actually relatively easy. You can say, okay, God, and I did this yesterday. I'll bring my notebook up. I was like, okay, God, that sounds all really great. So, what has this year really been about? And Holy Spirit said, well, you tell me. What do you think it's been about? I was like, oh, okay. Hadn't expected that question. I'd expected you to tell me the answer. So with that reminder, you can have these back and forth conversations with God. And so he and I went back and forth and we explored, this year has been about this and this year's been about that. So for me, this year really has been about laying foundations, knowing what it is that I'm building, knowing what it is that God is calling me to do, and starting to see that structure come to shape. Knowing that that's what this year has actually been about, that allows me to step into this final quarter feeling a lot freer, because I've already been given this inkling that next year then is about growth. I'm like, okay. However, if I thought the story this year was all about growth, I'd be getting to the end of the story and I would be incredibly disappointed because it would have been rubbish. I'm pausing for a minute because I fear the postman's about to come up and knock on the door and make the dog go bananas. Oh, no, it's gone somewhere else. No parcels for us today. I love getting parcels. Parcels are great fun. But just occasionally, it would be nice if the parcels would not come when we're doing the podcast. Anyway, let's crack on. If I'd have thought that the question for the theme or the question or the story for this year had been about growth, I'd get to this point in the year and be like, something's gone a bit wrong here. Quick, we need to really do something. Because I'll be quite transparent with you. This year has not been about growth. It's been about some personal growth and some growth in my relationship with God, for sure. But in terms of Youier and the Itchy Soul Playground, we've been going deep and growing as people as opposed to growing in community in terms of numbers. And so that's why it's really important that you take the time to ask God, okay, what is this book? Remember, book is a metaphor. What has this book really been about? With an extra reminder. The extra reminder Holy Spirit had for me and for you is that you are not a one-hit wonder. You are not only writing a book this year. Your life is, if we're going to take the book analogy as the book is a year, you have many, many, many books that you are exploring and writing with God. And so remember what I said yesterday, when a book is part of a series, thank you. When a book is part of a series, there will be some story questions that don't get answered by the end of that book. Think about for a minute some TV series that you might enjoy. You will be familiar potentially with this idea of overarching story themes. I'm thinking of, Doctor Who, of course, because I love Doctor Who. There are often story themes that will run from, the start of a series. Sometimes it'll take 3 or 4 seasons before we actually answer a particular story. I'm thinking, for example, if you don't know Doctor Who, this will go over your head for a moment, but I gotta say it just in case anybody who does like Doctor Who. River Song, when we're first introduced to River Song in the library, we have no idea who she is. It takes, I'm trying to think, it was Matt Smith's Doctor, it was way, Peter Capaldi, many seasons later, where that little piece, really is tied with a neat bow and comes to the end and they have their final meeting. The same is true for you in your life. And if you don't watch Doctor Who, insert your other favourite TV series or series of films that you enjoy, because the truth is still applicable to all of those. So remember, after you've asked God, okay, what has the story been about this year? Ask him, what threads from this year, from this book, are we carrying forward into the next book? Because this final act really is about tying all the pieces together, answering all the story questions, tying it up with a nice neat bow with a satisfying conclusion. But it's okay not to answer a question, not to conclude a thing, if it's for the next book. Do you see what I mean? Does that make sense? I know we're talking a little bit in riddles and a little bit in metaphor there. I'm hoping I haven't lost you. And of course, if you have questions or there's something you're not sure about, drop a note. If you're in the playground, ask in the playground. If you're not a member of the playground and you want to join us, uwea.com/join. We have lots of really cool stuff coming up, I'm just saying, including, I think we're going to be recording the podcast within Zoom and then having get-together stuff afterwards, but we're not quite there yet. So if you're in the playground, you can ask in the playground. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can obviously leave a comment here as well. So that reminder that if a story thread is going to be taken into the next book, it's okay not to resolve it. Yeah, it's okay to leave that piece unanswered. That eases the pressure enormously. Because I don't know about you, but I have definitely had certain themes in my life which are ongoing. And if you think that every single theme has to be resolved within one calendar year, and you're like, well, that didn't happen, it can potentially make you feel a bit like well, I did that a bit wrong, didn't I? No, you didn't do it wrong. You're exactly where you need to be. Let's trust the process. Remember, we get really sort of in a bit of a pickle with time sometimes. We overestimate what we can do in a day, a month, even a year. And we totally underestimate what we can do in 10 years. God is playing the long game. He knows the big picture. And the beauty of you doing this in relationship with him is that he can nudge you and guide you and actually work things through with you. So ask Holy Spirit, what story is it what is the story that I've been telling this year? And then I want to encourage you then. So what story have I been telling this year? Like I say, it's a little bit easier to do that in September when we've, at the end of September, done 9/12, 3/4. Maths was never my strong point. When we've done 3/4 of the year, it's actually easier to answer that question. So what is the story that we've been telling this year? What story threads are we taking into next year? And then remember, you still have 1/4 left. We want to end this act well. So then you ask God, okay, what is it that we're going to be playing with in this final act, in this final quarter, to tie this story up with a nice, neat, satisfying conclusion? And then listen and explore and hear what comes up for you. With a reminder, and this is where this whole structure is to me feels very different to how I've traditionally done goal setting. One of the things that I did after I got really frustrated with setting goals, because a year is a long time, I started setting 90-day goals instead. And they kind of fitted together, but I would look at them very discreetly, very, very separately. And so in the old way of doing this, and you'll see this even in my New Year goal setting book, if you're thinking of this quarter as 90 days, right, okay, let's set some goals for this 90 days. They might be things that you haven't touched all year. Because if you're looking at 90 days on its own, you can do that. With this structure, with planning your life like a story, that's not the case. Remember what we said, Act 3, no new information, no new characters. This is about taking all that's gone before, recognizing what is the story that we are telling this year. Okay, what do we need to do to end this well? If you feel like there's some pieces, oh, I need to do this, or I feel like I should be doing that, ask God, is that for the next book, the next year? Yeah? Because the chances are it will be. If it's something that's niggling at you, I'm not saying that you should forget about all that stuff. And remember, this is new. We're just playing with this. There's a reason why I have a playground. It's experimenting. It's having fun. So if all of this sounds like, nah, actually, Elle, this is not for me, that's fine too. I'm offering this to you pretty much in real time. I was very transparent with you yesterday. Literally yesterday morning on my sofa was the first time I had any inkling of this whole idea of structuring your life like a story. And so I went through and did this process yesterday and explored Act 3 yesterday, ready for today. Okay, so I recognise that it might not be for everybody. You know, we are not one size fits all. If that is part of you being you here, yeah, you being who God made you to be in relationship with him, that intentional, expectant relationship. So play with it, have fun with it, give yourself permission to need to go, no, actually, I don't like this. That's fine too. But more than anything, give it a go. Because if you don't try it, if you don't play with it, you'll never know. And like I say, if you are in the playground, I'd love to hear, how you got on, what questions you have. Because I'm getting a bit of a niggle that there might be more to this to flesh out. I don't know if that looks like a book. I don't know if that looks like some course that we do in the playground. I don't know yet. But it feels like it has legs. And so I would love to hear what questions you have and what comes up for you and the challenges, because then I can work through that with Holy Spirit and we can bring it all together. And that would really help me as well. So thank you. As always, of course, I really appreciate you being here. It's a joy to get to share this with you. And I'm excited. Like I said yesterday, I know I get very easily excited, but I'm really excited about this because it just feels freeing. That messy middle, that trial and error, which used to drive me bananas, if you put that within the context of Act 2 of a story, there's meant to be trial and error. You're not meant to get it right the first time. I don't know about you, but that feels incredibly freeing. And that's why I'm excited about this. I think it has so much potential. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, 2 p.m. UK time, 9 a.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. in South Africa. And it will go out to all the various places as it usually does. Have yourself a super duper day. I look forward to seeing you then. Take care. Bye-bye. And this is where I need to find the button. There we go. Got it. Thank you, Vasilia, for being here with me. And for folks who are watching it in the playground and on YouTube via Catch Up later, thank you to you too. With my apologies for that little pause in the middle. I should have been a better professional and just kept going. But I could see out of the corner of my eye, my peripheral vision, that there was the postman about to go and make noise. So anyway, we are done. I shall see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.